Previously we have seen what is crop and how we have to grow the crop and on what all seasons we are going to grow the crop, that is Kharif, Rabi, etc. So in this video we will continue with the topic, that is improvement in food resources. In that we will learn about irrigation and cropping pattern. So let's understand what is irrigation. So irrigation is supply of water to the crops. So you can see in this figure that sprinkler system is used to sprinkle the water to the crops. So this supply of water to the crops is known as irrigation. So water is necessary for the proper growth of plants because it helps to increase the crop yield and productivity. So from where does we get water for the crops? So how we are going to utilize the water so that there is no shortage of water to the crops? So there are two types of wells that has been built, that is tube well and dug well. So what are tube wells? So tube wells are the wells from which we pump out water through a handle present on it. So tube wells. So these are tube wells. There is here the water is pumped out through a handle. So tube wells can trap water from deeper strata or underground water. So what is dug well? Dug wells are wells you can see here where you can pull out the water through a bucket or anything which can hold the water. So in dug well also the water is collected from where the water is bearing in the strata. So what are the other sources of providing water to the crops? So river, canal. So what is a canal? It's an artificially constructed system to carry water to the fields to perform the process of irrigation. So here water is taken either from the river or it is taken from the tank or reservoirs. Here what happens is this canal is constructed by using concrete, stone, brick or any other source of flexible materials which solves the durability issues, so that there should be long-term use of the canal once it is built, so that there is no seepage of water or erosion that happens when water stays for a longer time. So you can see here the example of river canal. So next process is river lift system. So here what do you mean by lift? To bring it above. That is where water from rivers are drawn directly and it is sent to the irrigation schemes. River lift system do not depend on the natural flow of water, that is it employs by the means of pumps and also directly fetching of water from the storage dams or any other sources. So it doesn't require the natural source of water that is continuously flowing. Next comes river tank system. So here this is also known as irrigation tank, where it is an artificial reservoir which can be of any size. So it was used usually in the ancient period, or it was an ancient tradition of harvesting and also preserving the local rainfall or the water that comes from the streams and rivers would be stored in this tank for later use, especially for the purpose of agriculture, that is growing of crops and also used in drinking water. So next we will see how do we grow different crops. So you can see that variety of crops can be grown, but each crops based on the seasons it needs to be grown. And you can see that here the crops to grow it should be devoid or it should not have any diseases. So it can be infected by the weeds or pests etc. of a similar cropping pattern. So there needs to be an alternate cropping patterns. So let's see what it is. So there are different ways of growing the crops. So you can see here different ways can be used to give maximum benefit. They are called as cropping patterns. So they are of many types. Let's see these types. So mixed cropping. What do you mean by mixed cropping? So it is growing two or more crops. It's not only growing one crop, growing two or more crops simultaneously on a same piece of land. You can see here. So banana, here it's coconut tree, and other plants are also grown here in between. So that is known as mixed cropping. So let's understand what is intercropping. So intercropping is, so you can see here the same crop is grown alternately. So growing two or more crops on a same piece of land simultaneously, one after the other. So here a grown crop is different from the first one. The first and the third row will have the same crop. The third and the fifth will be the same crop. Fifth and see here odd numbers will be of the same crop. Even numbers will be of the same type. It is because so it becomes resistant to diseases, and those pests that attack this crop, this first crop, will not be attacking the second one because it is a different variety, and this second variety which is going to get infected by the pests or weeds, other insects, this will not be able to attack the next crop. So that's how we can increase the yield of the crop and also make the plants or the crops disease resistance. So let's see next type of cropping pattern is crop rotation. So growing of different crops on a same piece of land which is pre-plant. So pre-planning initially what to be grown after that product. So after that crop is grown fully and ripened, then what next to be grown. So you can see here that first there is a legume, so that is beans, peas, potatoes etc. Then goes with the root, under root crops, that is onions, garlic, turnips, beets etc. Next it's a rotation of crops, first legume, then the root, then the fruits. So fruits like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, eggplant, squash, melons etc. Then after this fruit season is over, then green leafy vegetables like lettuce, greens, herbs, spinach, corn etc. are grown. Again once this pattern is over, it's again circulation, that is next again legume crop is grown. This gives a benefit or advantage over different types of crops that can be grown according to the season, and also a large variety of crops can be grown alternatively, and also it can be made disease resistant and also a better crop yield. So let's see what are the advantages of cropping patterns. So here we can see that reduces risk and gives some insurance against failure of crops. There will be less failure of crops, and also maximum utilization of nutrients supplied. So when you are going to go for different crop patterns, then you can see that each crop needs different nutrients, hence the soil nutrient will be maintained. And also we can say that it prevents pests and diseases from spreading to all the plants. It might be only a single row of plant will get destroyed, but the rest of the plants will be rescued. So in crop rotation, the major advantage is that there is availability of moisture and climate, and also based on the climate, crop can be selected and also harvested one after the other. So it is also there is cultivation of 2 or more crops resulting in a good harvest. So let's understand now. We have seen how we are able to grow the crops by different cropping patterns. So there are certain unwanted plants also that grows in between these crops. Are they required for these plants? No, it is not at all required, because the nutrients that is required by the crops will be taken off by these unwanted weeds or plants, and hence it is going to be a havoc for the crops that needs to be grown. So you can see here that weeds compete for nutrients, space and light, and reduce the growth of the crop. So also you can see that the spacing between each crop will also get reduced because of the unwanted weeds or the plants. So they take the place of the crop that needs to grow. These plants take the nutrients that is required by the crops, and there is a competition where these unwanted weeds will grow so quickly that it will affect the crop growth and the yield. So you can see that weeds can be removed manually or mechanically by plowing and also by using weedicides. So certain things here you can see here. The weeds before adding vinegar and weeds after adding vinegar. So you can see the difference here. Certain examples of weeds are xanthium, parthenium and cypernus. So next comes the pests that are going to infect the plants or the fruits, that leaves, parts of the leaves, which will affect the growth of the plant. So you can see here some of the plants will be infected by the pests that bore into the stem and also the leaf. So almost all the cell sap fluids will be sucked by these pests. Here you can see the pests are cutting the leaves. Some of the pests you can see that it bore and get inside the fruit, and hence it is very unhealthy for the plant growth. What happens when there are a lot of pests, and if pests are not controlled? You can see that once a pest attacks one of the plants, the rest of the plants are also going to be affected. For that, you can pull out any weak plants and also build healthy organic soil. Minimize the insect habitat in the crop field. Interplant or crop rotation is the best method, and also use some pesticides that will avoid these pests attacking the crops. So finally, once the crops mature, it will be in huge quantities and it needs to be stored. So what are the storage conditions for the food grains? So you can see that the factors, certain factors are required for proper storage, otherwise it gets damaged. So these factors are abiotic factors and biotic factors which can damage the food crop. So abiotic factors are that non-living factors. Here it can be the temperature, where the food storage area has a high amount of temperature where the survival of the food grains is not possible, or there is a lot of moisture content in the grains and moisture in the air that causes the effect of fungus, and it will destroy the whole storage food grains. So material of the containers used for the storage, if it's not good, then also the shelf life of the food grains is reduced. So you can see here that stacking up of grain sacks. So fumigation is a better method that you can avoid the pests that is entering into the storage room. And you can see here that pile of loose grain on grounds, and there is a leakage of water that will affect the whole storage area. And also there is a damaged roof that needs to be repaired. And also you can see grain that is stacked here properly. There is no stacking up of grains properly here, and broad raised background. So you can see that stacked area, it is away from the ground. So that's all in this video that we have seen or we have understood. We have studied about what is irrigation, then we have seen different cropping patterns, and also the wells or the water uses with respect to the fields or the irrigation facilities. We have also seen the pest management and also storage of food grains. So keep watching. Thanks for watching, and the video will be continued in the next session.